Welcome loreheads to another 40k video as we look through the Akashic Reader at the timeless depths of the warp, where all stories are already written. Now, witness the psychic weapons of the Imperium. Some with their origins during the Dark Age of Tech, including one whose purpose in the current setting is done by arcane means, replacing the technology, and one that ties into the creation of the Psititan, and another fun one, an attempt by the Inquisition to replicate the effects of an eldar spirit stone. The first one up is wards. Wards are legendary creations dating far back into the Dark Age of Tech. Wards are techno-arcane devices that project subtle energy fields capable of influencing warp emanations. There are two types, hexagrammic and pentagrammic. Hexagrammic wards are designed to protect against psychic attacks, as the wards siphon away the energy of the immaterium, channeling it into harmless static discharges. Sanctioned psychers will be all too familiar with this type of ward, having been exposed to them during their stay on board a black ship. Pentagrammic wards exist to defend humanity against demons and the corrupt energies they wield. Since the knowledge of demons is prescribed, the existence of pentagrammic wards is a secret known to few outside of the Inquisition, with the exception of those at the higher levels of the Adeptus Ministorum and the tech priests of the Machine God on Mars. Next up we have null amp collars. Recovered as part of a joint operation by the Iron Hands and World Eaters legions, these devices are the product of a human civilization far removed from that which survived on old Earth, now long forgotten. In form they are thick collars of black silicate material, dense and seemingly without obvious components. When fitted to a living being, they project an aura that pacifies the churning of the ether in the vicinity of the device, though at a cost to the focus and mental acuity of the bearer. Before its disbandment, the fledgling Librarius project held several examples of these devices for study as potential anti-psyker weapons, and these most likely found their way into the hands of the legions after that body's disbandment at the Emperor's orders. In later years, the few surviving examples of this technology have been used to engineer a psychic hood to augment the ability of a human psyker to combat warp magic without the debilitating cost of the original devices. Now we look at Imperial Lancers. The early Imperium was not the first human civilization contacted by the shattered remnants of the falling Eldar Empire. Far older and more debased branches of mankind had preyed upon the vast world arcs of the fleeing Eldar, and these corrupted offshoots of humanity fell before the hosts of the Great Crusade, with the Raven Guard being chief amongst their slayers. With their fall, the relics of a number of these civilizations became trophies of the victorious hosts of the Emperor. Among them were the weapons known as Imperial Lancers, spears crafted from the living bone of captured Eldar spacecraft, and defaced with carving glyphs of ancient provenance and dubious purpose. Though of limited use against ceramite plating, such artifacts have been known to have a devastating effect on those cursed with psychic abilities, particularly amongst certain Xenos breeds, and in the later years of the Horus Heresy, they saw some use amongst the upper echelons of the forces of the war. Next we have transvetic generators. Various relics have been classified as or produced to be transvetic generators, whether they act through esoteric means, such as the so-called warp flasks, or by technological means, such as the etherbaric plough and the imperial split piston held in the stasis vaults of the Phalanx, which of course is the mobile monastery home of the Imperial Fists. Regardless of the means by which these items function, they all act to create a short-ranged, stable tunnel through the unreality of the warp, by which a being no larger than a legionary might traverse battle terrain or bypass fortifications entirely, relocating them from one place to another in the blink of an eye via a warp conduit. However, such casual dalliance with the powers of the warp is not undertaken without considerable risk, and the surrounding field created by a transvetic portal into the immaterium can quickly become unstable and drag the user and others nearby into unreality. The next one we will look at are dubbed terminal lucidity injectors. Let me make sense of that for you. This device was discovered by the Dark Angels whilst destroying a large Xenos city compound on an oxygen-rich death world, whose name has since been purged from Imperial records. The world was commanded by the planet's tall and lithe masters, who lorded over a heavily muscled, gene-bulked slave stock of barely humanoid form. These creatures were spent as commodities of war against the other compounds of that world, which battled in competition for the planet's scarce mineral resources. The stock of warriors were bound from birth with collars carved with symbols of esoteric meaning, which siphoned a portion of the wearer's natural psychic energy over the course of their lifespan. At the end of their brutal lives, this force will be pumped directly back into their souls to send them into a death-induced fury of vitality. Then we have empath bonds. The empath bond technology was recovered by the Iron Hands and Lunar Wolves during the liberation of Xenos II, in which they fought back against hordes of unrestrained PSYKERs. The source of this power was discovered after felling a group of PSYKERs, and it was found that they each carried or shared a fragment of a psychoactive meteorite embedded in their flesh. All of these PSYKERs were eradicated, and with them the knowledge of their bonding methods lost. It is only later, through an extremely complicated etheric process, could two fragments of this material be bonded by the artificers of Imperial science, effectively forming an unbreakable link between two PSYKER souls, regardless of the distance between them. This allows the PSYKER to share their power, drawing upon each other's strength to make both far stronger than they would have been alone, as well as giving them the ability to transfer a portion of their own vitality to their partner in times of dire need. And the last two, we have the Digitalis Arcanis and the Divining Blades. We'll do the Arcanis first. Part ancient cogitation device, part psychobiometric interface. The Digitalis Arcanis is a relic of the Dark Age of technology, which requires the arcane attentions of its wearer to function. Under the ministrations of those given to a particular kind of law, a Arcanis can be made to swell its owner with power, enhancing their reflexes and tolerance for pain, as well as imparting an unearthly knowing in its bearer's mind. Though the boost is temporary, it can grant a warrior superlative abilities for the duration of a battle. It's a battlefield temporary power-up then. For Mario, for example, it would be catching a large mushroom. This device fills them with a heady sense of greatness, which they would quickly come to crave after its passing. Repetitive desire for the power of the Arcanis comes at a great cost, however, as when the unnatural power ebbs, so too is a portion of the user's very soul, sapped away into the device. And here at the end we'll cover Divining Blades, weapons of an ancient provenance, forged from the unimaginably rare nightmare steel. The Divining Blades are relics far beyond mortal ken to comprehend. It is said of such devices that they are keen enough to cut unreality and reality, both when swung, that the subtle edges which lie beyond both of those dimensions can never be blunted, and that they have an oscillating frequency in synchronicity with the turning of the universe itself. Charged with untold ethereal power, a divining blade can locate and sever the true essence of a demon within the warp, if it passes into proximity with its edge, and thus these artifacts inspire a primal terror in demons which behold them. Examples of divining blades are extremely rare, and only the War Master is known to have possessed a collection of such blades, earned in conquest and bartered for by his agents over a century. Indeed, it is impossible to say, but it is possible he owned the majority of those examples to be found in our plane of existence. As a sign of the utmost favour, he gifted a single divining blade unto perhaps a score of warriors in whom he saw the greatest potential destinies in his war with a single divining blade. Each could do much. And now then, friends, I turn things over to you. What do you think of these weapons? An interesting mix of Xenos and Dark Age tech? No? Comment down below.